Hello and welcome to my knife channel. Well, normally in my thumbnail you would see the picture of the knife that I'm going to be talking about. But this knife has a story to it that begins over 6 months ago when I watched a Knife Detector video and he had found a very unique Rough Ryder knife that is discontinued and pretty hard to find, but he got it for $5. Now, I didn't expect to be able to get it for $5, but I was hoping that eventually I'd be able to find that knife. And about 3 months after he did that video, I found one up for bid. And it started off halfway reasonably. I think it was like $15 or something. But I got in on the bid, and they quickly got out of the range of what I thought was realistic for that knife. Considering that even though Knife Detector is super lucky and good at what he, gets with knives and stuff, we can't all expect to be that way. But still, considering that he got his for $5, I didn't want to go up to what it eventually became was $33. So I continued to look, and about a couple of weeks ago, I saw one come up again for bid. This one's starting off pretty low, so I didn't even bid on it. I just put it on my watch list, and I'd keep checking it, and the price stayed fairly low. And I thought, well, it reminds you, when you're doing an eBay bid when it's about to be due, and sure enough, the thing popped up. It was, like the last hour, and it still hadn't gone up, and there was like 6 bidders or whatever. And I thought, well, the price that people are bidding on it right now, I'd pay up to, like maybe $15 for this knife. And so I put my limit up on that, and all of a sudden I became the highest bidder. And this was kind of sneaky the way I did it. I've done this. I've had this done to me on bids before, where you start off and you're the first one to find the knife, and you bid on it. And you think it's a good price, and you put what you think is your limit, and everything's going good until the last 30 seconds or the last minute somebody beats you. Well, it had already warned me, that it was down to a minute, and I just calculated in my head what I'd be willing to pay, which is like, up to $15. And I wound up getting the knife. So, without further ado, I know that was long-winded. Let me continue. So then I win the bid and everything. And so I pay for it right away. It says, you won the bid, congratulations. Pay the seller, boom. Within a minute, I pay the seller. And first it comes up as saying payment pending, but my credit card lets me know as soon as, it's a debit card, as soon as I get any money out of it, it sends me a message, and already removed the money, so I knew it was paid. Maybe it was a PayPal thing. Anyway, it finally goes through, and then I wait for it to be shipped, and the person takes their time to ship it, but within a day or so they ship it, and I get a transaction, tracking number. It's going to go through the United States Postal Service. And if you didn't know anything about the United States Postal Service lately, they've been bombarded, and a lot of stuff has been going on besides the Christmas rush. There's been an election, and yeah. So it looked like it was going to arrive last Saturday. That's what it said. It processed through and everything. I was checking the tracking. It had left Nevada, and I'm in Texas. It's not too far away, but I mean, it finally arrived today, and the status had changed from arriving on time in transit to arriving late, delivery date unknown, to we don't know where it was. The last time we saw it, it was in Nevada, and it's like, yeah. So anyways, I get a message saying it was going to arrive today, and it was going to be there at 9 o'clock, and then it said it'll be there by 11:30, and then it said it'll definitely arrive by 5:30 in the afternoon. Well, It took it till like 3:30, but it finally arrived. Boom, there it is. I know that's long and drawn out, and I'll put a link to there if you don't want to hear the whole story behind it. Now, what's missing on this is the shield, because this is a used knife, and I think I got it for $10. But it's not used in that it's been sharpened at all. So what we have here is this kind of like Spyderco kind of hole. I have opened that one-handed, but because this thing is so stiff and everything, you really got to like lever your hand around, to get it to open one-handed. And then it locks in place. This nail neck up here works really well. That's usually the way I pull it out, because I'm in no big hurry. But if you watch Knife Detector's original video on this, he had got his for $5, and he opened it up and he was like, wow, this thing doesn't want to close. Now, it has a locking mechanism, but it's not back here where you would normally think. Normally, you would have a cutout right here, and you'd be levering on this main spring that's holding the knife closed, or it would be back here, and basically you do the same thing, lever over here. What they've done is they decided to you just push down here on this part of the blade, and it will leave a dent in your finger, and then the knife unlocks. It has no half stop, but that's your notch. Let's see if I can see it. Sorry, I'm trying to get this thing to focus. That's your notch right there. I'm gonna have to zoom in on this. I'll put it at half stop, and then we'll zoom in. Come on, don't look at Civivi, look at that. There you go. That's your notch right there. See how it pivots? And I can't see it, but there's probably just a hook, a little hook cut out for this so that when it gets in place. Now, how this other one gets down here and levers that guy up, it's some feat of engineering I haven't figured out yet, but it's pretty cool the way they do that, because it hides the unlocking mechanism from it. And of course, this would have had like the propeller or bow tie or whatever you want to call it type of shield right there. And the earlier ones, well, all of them really are just like cemented in, but sometimes they get bounced off. This came with no box or anything else, but it does have this nice little saber blade. I like it because it kind of looks like a Wharncliffe shape, and it's not completely straight off as a Wharncliffe. It's just like an unusual shape. It's got the horseshoe stamp on it. I think this model is 821. Yeah, RR821. But you can see it's got the original edge on it. And I don't see any dings of any blade wrap on it. Right there, there's something going on. And that's right about where that is. Yeah. You can get these little Dremel attachments that are small, but they got a little ball on them. And if you get that to going down there, because you don't want to scratch the linings if at all possible. And you don't want to take a cone shaped one or anything else. But if you can knock that down a little bit, that's better than... This is so minor that, yeah, you could probably just sharpen this and get rid of that. But you see how it shines? That's how you pick a lot of this up, is you just get a bright light off to one side, and you just move your blade around, and you'll see the primary edge, but if there's any like ding or anything else, it'll pick it up. And I call that pin wrap or blade wrap. Blade wrap is actually like when two blades smack to each other, but it's usually because of this pin they put in there, and they want to hide the pin, so they'll put, this is their lever point or whatever, they'll leave that up, and if you're being real gentle with it, you probably would never get that, but a person's going to have their knife, and it's either going to slip, or you're going to let it go, and pink, and that's when you get that. So you can sharpen the blade all the way down past wherever it's denting at. But you're taking steel off the knife, you know, and I mean, I'd rather take steel off the spring back here. It's not going to hurt that, and it's already roughly finished anyway, you know, down there. So anyways, this thing's got a, let me zoom back out. But yeah, that's the big long story. It looked like it took a donkey trail from Nevada and got lost in a sandstorm. It's about 4.5 inches long overall, and the blade is 3 inches. It is a locking blade, so even though it's 3 inches, it's a locking blade, and it's potentially a one-handed opening blade. So yeah, it's got a ring bolster back here. The fit's not bad on this one. Let me zoom in. And it's got a nice coloration. I mean, as you know, a lot of these are, all it is just basically a white bone that they apply dye to. And sometimes they do a good job of it. And this one, they matched the color up pretty well on both sides. There's no cracking. Considering that these were, yeah, this is done well. I've got a much worse example. I'll show you I got a doctor's knife, an earlier version doctor's knife that we might as well throw him in there as a bonus. But, yeah, it's a pretty nice little knife. And let's see what the little pin blade is. It's a nice long pin blade. It's got that rough rider with an eye, and then a horseshoe, and then the guy. It's kind of hard to tell what he's doing there, but I think it's a guy running on a horse going crazy. A rattlesnake bit his horse's butt, and he's running along. At least that's my story. I'm sticking with it. All right, but yeah, the pin blade is, let me just take it over here on the side, a little over about 1 1/8 inches. We can always, you know, use the scientific method of actually figuring out. See, it depends. If something was like you had a 2-inch blade law or something, or a 1-inch blade law, you could say, well, this is all I can cut with. But they could say, yeah, but look how far it's sticking up. So we're going to measure it from how far you could stab it into something. It's like, come on, man. So yeah, it's like 2 inches if you jab it all the way into the bolster here. But for knife people and actual purposes, realistically, you really only got 1 point. I got this glare going on. Like about 1.7 inches or 43 millimeters. So, and this one, there's no half stop and there's no special trick you have to do. Now, you probably heard me complain before about the triad lock and stuff, because when you have to push on it to close it, well, the triad lock is at least a wider surface area, so you really got to mash this guy down. And when you do, man, you're going to get, see that? You're going to get it. It's not super painful. It's not going to bring blood and make you cry. You know, it might make you cry. But, you see that ding there? I'll have to take care of that. So, yeah, that's the story of this guy. Finally got it. Sometimes you have to take, this is why I like these things. They're not like, yeah, you know, a really nice made knife. This shield would have been pinned in there. And, you know, it wouldn't have come out, as opposed to glue or something. But, yeah, well, these are inexpensive, and I could just go for, like, weird patterns or different patterns and stuff. You know, like I said, when I was a kid, this is what we had. It would be something like this. If they had anything more, we couldn't afford it. You know, so, I mean, this is what you could get at the store. If you saved up your pennies and dimes and mowed yards and stuff, you could get a little knife. Now, the bonus one is, here's another one where, like I said, the coloring is just, you know, how they dye the bone and stuff. Sometimes they do a good job. This doesn't really bring it out, but this is really orange on this side. I wish I would have kept it like that dark on the other side. But this was listed as a pen knife, and it's not a pen knife. It's a doctor's knife. because all this is flat and flush, and it allows you to crush a pill, which we'll do here in a second. I got like a zinc tablet we can smash up. Now, this has a, I don't know what number, it's an earlier model, but if you look at the nail nicks that even the earlier ones do, you see how this is just more kind of like a stylized one? It still works. It's still an indentation. So you've got a long, straight blade. And some of these knives are best looked at from a distance. You know, the closer up you get to them, the more you're going to start noticing things. It has no half stop. And I like the secondary blade to have a spatula. But this is a pin blade on it. Again, it's that kind of like strange. It's match strike, but, you know, it's a straight. I don't know if I've got another one. Let me pause this. I've got this case where I put all of my doctor's knives. And that's the extent. This is not a doctor's knife. This is that what they call the French tickler. The locking back. 3, 6, 9, 12. So it'll hold 12 knives. But none of them, well, this one here does have kind of that same nail nick, but it's different. I don't think I have any of them that have this. This is not a Rough Ryder. It's something. I was just looking at the Rough Ryder models. This guy's close. But you see how the nail nick is different? More ridges. Anyways, that was one reason why I was going to get this knife. But when you start looking at it closer, because I knew it was a doctor's knife and not a pen knife or a physician's knife. And these knives were back in the day when they actually mixed medicines and stuff up like that. Let me get one that's got a spatula. No. Yes. Alright, this could be used as a tongue depressor, but in most cases it was like sorting pills, counting them up, or scraping powders, you know, together, or mixing stuff up. It can work as a butter knife. I've used it as a butter knife. It's not quite as wide as you'd like it to be for a butter knife, but the cool thing is it's not sharp whatsoever. Ah, whoa, I forgot I sharpened it. Blood spurting everywhere with the graphics. No, yeah, they're not sharp. And in the base, like I said, you can use like a mortar and pestle and smash something up. Let me put these guys back up before I get too carried away. But yeah, once you start looking closer at this knife, you will see, whoa, what a huge gap there. Right on that one. And then it continues over here on this side. The color matching, like I said, this side is darker, much darker. And this one's much lighter. You know, either one would have been fine. Light like this, light like that on the same side, or dark like this and dark. When it's like this, it's almost like this side was sitting on the dash of a car. You know, and this side wasn't exposed to the UV and the sun. This one like bleached out. I don't know. It's not a bad fit. It hasn't been sharpened, like I said. Always ready. It's one of the earlier models. Their quality has improved. This one's got some weird stuff going on. Right there's where I would expect it to hit. Sometimes you get lucky and you only got one blade doing it. There's some up there. A lot of times if I see anything major, I just see where it lines up. The reason why I say that is because if you think you can just sharpen it out, sometimes you got to sharpen a lot to get it where it won't do that again, or just ease the blade down. And these are not super expensive. These are going to be like why would you get them? Well, they're not for an investment. It's just more like you have the fun of trying to find a pattern that. See, I'm going to display the darker side. You have the fun of trying to find a pattern that's not available anymore, so you're kind of like hunting it down, and there's only a limited number of them. They don't always bring them back, and yeah, they're not super expensive, and you can get a collection of them just to look at them. And like I said, some of them are single bladed, like this. It's just a long, slender blade and pretty light, easy to put in your pocket. If you had like a shirt pocket, you could put them in your shirt pocket. This was the classic carbon one that's a single blade. I haven't patinaed it yet. I just like the way it kind of frosted when they did the edge grind on it. But yeah, I got, I'm probably missing a few more of the Rough Ryder doctor's knives, but I get most of them when I see them. This one, the reason why I delayed so long is because, like I said, it didn't have a spatula on the other end, and I have the pipe doctor one back on the table somewhere. But there you go. Just thought I'd add that one to there, the doctor knife collection along with this. I know it's a long video, but yeah, it was a tale of searching down. Like if this one's still available, it's just harder to get now. It's not usually in stock, and Smoky Mountain Knife Works or most of the regular stocking dealers, so you have to go on secondary market eBay and just look at what you're getting. Sometimes, the shield might fall off. So what is it for you? Do you want to display it in all its glory? Well, yeah, I could just fill this in with silver paint and squirrel some stuff, and unless you look really close, you wouldn't be able to tell that wasn't a Rough Ryder, thing. That's where, bars and stuff. There you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and the little story of how this thing took forever to get here and wasn't easy to find, and its story's not completely complete, but it's always nice when a knife has a story, even if it's made up. But this one's not made up. But yeah, because if you see one with damages or scratches and stuff, you can make up a story of how that happened. Like it was a beaver tail knife. This was nick in the blade was when it got into a fight with a vicious beaver, and it bit the blade out and tried to knock a tree down on him and threw him in the lake. And yeah, stories your grandpa used to tell. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.